Everyone, welcome to the show. I have a bunch of new polling data to share with you guys. And this is more bad news for Donald Trump and the Republicans, including polling on his war, on Donald Trump's war with Iran. And I want to say up front, for anybody who's maybe new here, if you are ignoring the polls or you say, oh, polls don't matter, look at 2024, you may have seen mainstream media pushing the narrative that it was in the bag for Kamala Harris. I did not do that here. I told the truth that the polls were kind of all over the place. There were some that showed her up a little bit. There were some that showed Donald Trump up a little bit. They were all within the margin of error. It wasn't until I think it was the Iowa poll by Ann Seltzer that came out. That was the first one that really gave me hope that she had a chance at winning because she was so far ahead and it was a red state. Other than that, I was very concerned in what I was seeing with the polls. It was not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination. And all of the focus groups had me very nervous because there was erosion in Biden's base, in the constituents and the people who actually helped to put Biden in place in 2020. I saw at least I'd say three or more participants in swing voter focus groups who were switching back from Biden to Trump. And that made me very concerned. So keep that in mind as I'm sharing these polls with you because they're all saying the same thing. So first, let's take a look at the most recent Marist poll. This was conducted on behalf of NPR and PBS. So in regard to the war in Iran, you can see it is very unpopular. 56% of respondents oppose Trump's war, 44% approve of it. Among those who oppose it, that figure includes 86% of Democrats, which unbelievable that it's not more, but 61% of independents, which is the real key here, because they are the group that helped to put, one of the groups that helped to put Donald Trump back in office. And then notably, this also includes 16% of Republicans. So that's a weakness for Trump. This is probably why he's trying to walk back Pete Hegseth's talk about how this is going to be some sort of protracted action in the Middle East. And then there was more Iran polling. This was conducted by several news outlets. So Harry Enton over at CNN did a recap or kind of gave an overview of this. So check this out.
Of U.S. military action in Iran, and you take an average of CNN, Fox, Ipsos, and NBC polls. What you see here is you see that the clear majority of Americans disapprove of the action. We're talking about 51% of Americans disapprove, just 40% approve. And this is the net approval rating for U.S. military action in Iran. Look at this. CNN, our own CNN poll, shows that the net approval rating is minus 18 points. Very similar to the Ipsos polling at minus 16 points. But then all of a sudden you see the NBC News polling, and look at this. You see it at minus 11 points, getting a little bit more popular. And then you'll look at the latest Fox News poll, and that's a split, a dead even split at 0 points.
So as usual, Fear News Network is screwing everything up for everyone, right? But seriously, guys, I mean, their polling is clearly, it's skewing the results. It's making it appear that this war isn't as unpopular as it is. And then speaking of unpopular, I want to show you guys this new YouGov polling about Trump's Gestapo. So totally different subject, but another one of his weaknesses here. So a full 50% of respondents now say that ICE should be abolished. Only 39% disapprove of that. This is unreal. I mean, only the most hardcore leftists were saying this years ago. And then check this out. So support for abolishing the agency is even growing among Republicans. So take a look at this. These are the charts of all the different parties and how the support for this has increased. I mean, you can see Democrats been pretty steady It went up a little bit at the beginning of the year, and then it kind of leveled back off. So as of January 10th, like if you go back to the beginning of this chart, which is they started at January 10th, only 47% of independent voters wanted to abolish ICE. That is now 52%, as you can see here. And then only 14% of Republicans wanted to get rid of it on January 10th. As you can see again, it's now at 23%. So a 9% increase among Republican voters. And then this next one is a really good sign. So take a look at this. 75% of respondents think that ICE should be required to wear uniforms, saying that they're from ICE, and that includes 57% of Republican voters. And then down below, as you can see, 59% say that ICE shouldn't be allowed to wear masks. This is really a very big sign that things are changing, because even in focus groups that I've done, and you guys who've followed me for a while and watched those segments, you know, in focus groups, a lot of people, especially swing voters who've gone back and forth, they're like, I don't know. I think that they should be able to hide their identity because they're getting doxxed and blah, blah, blah. So to see a majority of the country saying, no, these guys should not be allowed to wear masks, that is a big sign that things are shifting. I also have some polling on Trump's approval rating. So he hit another new low. This is in the most recent Economist and YouGov poll. So take a look at this. So Trump's first term is in the light red, like almost an orange. Biden is in the blue, and then Trump's second term is the dark red line. So you can see he is now underwater in his second term by 21 points. So he has only a 38% approval rating and 59% disapproval. And then check out where he stands with independent voters. This is as compared to his first term. So look at this one. It just falls off a cliff. I mean, that is ridiculous. So the purple graph is his first term with independents. So he never was in this territory with this voting bloc. And, you know, as you can see, I'm sure you already figured out, the green line is his second term. So, I mean, only 26% of independents in this poll now approve of Donald Trump's job performance. That is abysmal. That is absolutely pathetic. You cannot, I don't care who you are, you and your party cannot win elections with that kind of approval rating among independents. And then look at this. This is from the same poll. So they asked about the direction of the country, and 60% of respondents said the country's on the wrong track. And then if you look down at the bottom, you can see under the 2024 vote, you can see that even 24% of the voters who just voted for Trump in 2024 agree that we are on the wrong track. He is screwed. He is so screwed. And then also, look at where he came in on the issue of inflation and prices. Check this out. So as you guys can see here, 63% disapprove of his handling of this issue. That includes, again, if you look down, 23% of his 2023 or 2024 voters. So absolutely just getting annihilated. And even his own voters are like, yeah, this is not working. And for the first time in forever, Democrats now have a slight lead on the question of who voters trust more to handle the issue of the economy. Again, unbelievable. I mean, 39% say Democrats, only 36% say they trust Republicans more. And then check this next one out. So as you guys can see here, they asked, are you a MAGA supporter? This is a new low. Only 25% of the respondents said that they identify as MAGA supporters, and even 29% of Donald Trump voters from 2024 now say, yeah, I'm not MAGA. Now, are these people saying, oh, I'm a Democrat now, or, I'm just a traditional Republican? No, what is happening is you're starting to see a split now among MAGA supporters, people who identify as MAGA, and then people who are like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who identify as America First. They are making that distinction. They're breaking away from Trump and saying, I'm not MAGA anymore. Because remember, Donald Trump said MAGA is whatever I say it is. And some people who voted for him are like, no, that's not what I agreed to. I don't agree with that at all. I'm America First, have been, always will be. And then the Democrats also hold a 7-point advantage in this same poll in regard to the generic ballot question. So this one is very telling for the midterms. You can see here, 40% said that they would vote for any generic Democrat on the ballot versus 33% who said they'll vote for the generic Republican. This is one of the biggest leads that I've seen in any of these polls. And then NBC also just came out with new polling. So I'm going to show you a summation by Steve Kornacki. He is their, data analyst over there. I almost said analyst. That's something else. All right, check this out.
4% approval rating for the president, not far off where he was when we last checked in. But I think for Trump here in his first term, that 2018 midterm, this is almost exactly where he was at that point, too. Of course, there was a 40-seat Democratic landslide that year. Democrats took back the House. Also, what is driving the low number for Trump? It continues to be the economy. Look at this, Kristen, asking folks, do you approve of how the president has handled inflation, cost of living specifically? 36% approve, 62 disapprove. That's down a year ago. It was 42-55. Immigration now, 44% approval. But this is interesting. We also asked not immigration, we asked border security. And when you put it that way, it is different. 53% majority approve of the president there. ICE, a positive rating of only 38% for ICE. Does that mean the country's getting more dovish on immigration? Not necessarily, because when you ask about sanctuary cities, look at that, 33-43, also very negative there. So heading into the midterm, the generic ballot, it's a 6-point advantage here for Democrats. It's a sizable lead for them, although we mentioned 2018, Trump's first term. At this point, it was 10 points for Democrats, so it is a little bit less. And I think what's driving the Democratic advantage now really is heavily this. It's the interest of their own base. We ask folks if they have the highest level of interest in these elections. 3/4 of Democrats are saying they do. Barely 60% of Republicans are. And again, that is a difference, Kristen. When you go back to that first Trump midterm, the gap wasn't as pronounced.
So very interesting that, Democrats are far more enthused. I saw there's a political pundit, pollster named Frank Luntz, who is a Republican, and he's trying to say, oh, well, Republicans just don't have as much interest in the election because they're just happy with what's going on. So I have that video to share with you guys in another segment. But anyway, just the cope is hysterical. Fox also released their latest polling this week. It may have been last week, actually, now that I think of it. But here is what they found. So this is all of the, but not all, but this is a lot of the topics that are hot topics right now. And as you can see here, Donald Trump is upside down on every single issue with the exception of border security. So, for anyone who can't make this out, he is upside down on his overall job approval rating in this Fox poll. He has a 43% approval and 59% disapproval rating. Immigration is 47% approval, 53% disapprove. So again, Immigration, separate. People are seeing this separate from border security. They like his border policy. They don't like how he's dealing with deportations and immigration. Foreign policy, which again was always one of his strengths, that is now at only a 40% approval rating, 60% disapproval. Unbelievable. He's upside down by 20 points on that. And then by far, as you can see down at the bottom, his worst topic is cost of living. He has only a 32% approval rating on the cost of living, 67% disapproval. So actually, in looking at his job approval, it's so tiny, but yeah, it's only 57 disapproval, which is still, I mean, it's still sad. For 14 points underwater on a Fox News poll. And then in addition, Fox asked respondents about Trump's Gestapo, and they got a little bit of a wake-up call here. So as you can see, the approval rating is going down for ICE. They're going down. So only 42% approve, 58% disapprove in a Fox News poll on ICE. And then check this out. Trump's Kool-Aid cult base, they keep touting, 87% approval rating amongst Republicans. They keep saying, Trump is the most popular president among his base, in all of history. Well, when Fox broke it down based on alignment with MAGA, shows a very different picture. So take a look at this. They found that 87% of Republicans approve of Trump's job performance overall. But when they asked non-MAGA Republicans, he has only a 63% approval rating. So, I mean, they never mention that. I see this all over Twitter, and they never mention that second part. And then this next bit of polling data comes from Navigator Research. So they do polls, they do focus groups. They came away with this from one of their, I don't know if this was a focus group or if this was a poll. I believe it was a poll, but they said 1 in 5 Americans who voted for Donald Trump last election now regret their choice. This is the highest that it has ever been. 20%. Actually, it was a little over. It was like 23%, but they just rounded and said 1 in 5. And then I also have some Hispanic specific polling data to share with you guys. So this comes from CBS News, and YouGov did this polling for them. They did the survey. So take a look at this. As of the end of February, this February, only 35% of Hispanic voters now approve of Donald Trump's deportation policies. And you can see here, that was at 50%. He was like even. He was breaking even with Hispanic voters, 50-50, 1 year ago. It's now dropped 15%. They're screwed. They're screwed. So, going to be an interesting election year. All right, guys, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care. I will talk with you soon.